Hello, Cowboys fans. DC Fan 99 here. The draft ended back in uh, back on Saturday. So, as usual, I'm gonna go ahead, go down the list, give you my overall grade for this year's draft, tell you some picks I like, give you some picks I don't like, and then at the end of it, I'll just go ahead and give you an overall grade on how I think we did this year. So, let's get started at the number 12 pick. The Dallas Cowboys decided to go ahead and pick up Micah Parsons. Now, there were Cowboys Nation was super split on this pick the night that we picked him up. And then, the next day some people slept on it and they ended up liking the pick. And there were also some people who slept on it and still hated the pick. Um, the biggest criticism I see from this selection is the fact that we traded with Philadelphia and, fans have a problem with us, you know, negotiating with the enemy or some shit. I think that's a really retarded way to look at it, if I'm being honest, because, I mean, Devontae Smith, he was going to fall into the NFC East anyway, so the Dallas Cowboys, they pretty much had to compare and contrast from, going against Jalen Reagor and Devontae Smith or going against Kenny Galladay and Devontae Smith. Uh, Either way, he was going to land in the NFC East regardless, so I very much would rather go against Jalen Reagor and Devontae Smith, and that's exactly what we went with. And we still got the best defensive player in the draft, as a lot of people had Micah Parsons on their draft boards and whatever. The biggest concern with Micah Parsons was that he really can't cover. The fans say that he can't cover, but the NFL analysis or analysts on draft night said that he was able to cover tight ends and running backs. But I mean, either way, even if he can't cover, I don't think that's really the kind of player that Micah Parsons is. I mean, Demarcus Ware back in the day, I mean, he couldn't cover for shit. But because he was so good at consistently wrapping up the ball carrier, and because he was so good at consistently, getting pressure on the quarterback and fucking sacking them for days, uh, fans, they really didn't care too much about the fact that he can cover. And I think that's probably going to be the role that Micah Parsons is going to serve for a defense. That kind of Von Miller, DeMarcus Ware kind of role, not in any way saying that he's going to be as good as one of those players. We have no fucking idea. It's probably going to take a little while for him to develop in our defense and, work with Dan Quinn. And I think that's mainly the purpose of this draft. The purpose of the draft was to, recruit as many weapons for Dan Quinn to utilize just as much as possible, So and we definitely did that in this draft. So I don't think there's really going to be any excuses for Dan Quinn if he ends up being as bad as last year. But or if our defense ends up being as bad as last year. But Micah Parsons, I mean, I get that over the last fucking 5 months, we were talking about who are we going to pick up, J.C. Horn or Patrick Surtain, and uh, the fact that we didn't get either of them automatically makes people think that this is immediately a horrible draft and that we already lost the draft or whatever. But, I mean, Micah Parsons, this really isn't a pick that's worth being mad about. I personally don't think he was the best player we could have picked up. If you ask me, if I had to pick between Parsons and Slater, I probably would have picked Rashawn Slater. Just because he can do more at his position. He can, open some running lanes for Ezekiel Elliott, who we're really looking forward to him having a bounce back season after the fucking debacle of a year he had last year. Um, it wasn't 100% because of the O-line, because he had a horrid fumbling problem, but he's been putting in a lot of work this offseason, and we're just really hoping that he has a bounce back season, this year. So I probably would have picked up Rashawn Slater And, when Tyron Smith inevitably goes down by fucking week 3, just put him over there left tackle so that, we're not just, left with the left tackle that we signed from Buffalo, I think it was. I can't even remember his name, but I probably would have picked him up over Micah Parsons, but I mean, I would have picked Rashawn Slater up over Micah Parsons, but Micah Parsons, again, in no way, shape, or form is this, a pick to be mad about, because if you look back at the Cleveland Browns game, we were really missing that sure tackler who could wrap up ball carriers in the backfield. And Micah Parsons is exactly that player. And I think that's probably the game that really forced the Joneses' hand on this selection the most. I mean, judging by this pick, along with all the other selections we made in this draft, they are really fucking determined to get this defense right and to help Dan Quinn, with our running defense as much as possible. To just get this shit right this year, because we've been ass against running offenses for like the last 5 years. So, in my opinion, this isn't a bad pick at all. Round 2, we go with Kelvin Joseph, defensive back from Kentucky. Not a bad selection for us either. Cowboy fans, like myself, were kind of confused that we didn't go after Asante Samuel. Kelvin Joseph, like, who the fuck is this? But from what I heard, Asante Samuel is more of a slot defensive back anyways, and we already have that in Diggs, Jordan Lewis. So, Kelvin Joseph, not mad at that whatsoever. Next we have Osa Odigizua. I think I might be pronouncing that correctly. Defensive tackle from UCLA. Not mad at that either. Starting to beef up the defensive line. That's good. So now we have him, Neville Gallimore, Antoine Woods, Tristan Hill, I think his name is. We need to pick up somebody in absent, to fill in the shoes of Tyrone Crawford. As much as he fucked us with that contract, he really was one of our better run stoppers on this front seven. So this is a pretty understandable selection that the Cowboys made here. Next we got Chauncey Goldstein. I think this is the pick that we got from Philadelphia, defensive end out of Iowa. Again, beefing up that D-line, no problem with that whatsoever. I think we probably have enough edge rushers already. We have Randy Gregory, DeMarcus Lawrence. I think Dorrance Armstrong counts. Bradley Anae, who got, I think, only one snap last year that a lot of Cowboy fans are hyped to see. But I guess we got him because Alden Smith signed somewhere else. So, not mad at this pick whatsoever. Now, this is the most fucking controversial pick out of this draft for sure. 99th pick, Nashon Wright, defensive back out of Oregon State. This is the compensatory pick, I'm pretty sure, that we got from losing Byron Jones in free agency. So Cowboy fans, of course, are making that comparison between Nashon Wright and Byron Jones. They really like him because of his size. He was a former wide receiver, and his ball skills. But man, for a guy that was supposed to be drafted like in the 6th or 7th round, if he was even going to be drafted at all, just to pick him up with a 3rd round pick, I don't give a shit if it was a late round pick. You use a 3rd rounder to pick someone that was supposed to go in the 6th or 7th round. Like, on paper, this is an asinine selection. I guess Dan Quinn really sees something that nobody else saw in his pro day or in his tape. This is probably, if I'm being totally honest, this is probably a selection that I'm the most excited about, because everyone's saying like he has a high ceiling and his size and that he'll fit in really well with the scheme that Dan Quinn is going to be running with this defense. So people are making the comparison, oh, he's going to be, he could be the next Richard Sherman or whatever. I think that's a bit of a bold claim, obviously. Uh, Cowboy fans are going to shit on him immediately after his rookie season because he's really not going to get that much playing time with the defensive backs we already have on this team. Anthony Brown, Trayvon Diggs, Jordan Lewis, Kelvin Joseph. Now, he's really not going to see the field that much. But he's going to need some time to develop anyway. And he could, honestly, he'll probably develop even faster than Richard Sherman did because we have the best receiving game in the NFL according to Pro Football Focus. So, I mean, this is really the best possible case scenario that Kelvin Joseph or Nashon Wright could have. Start by working with Cedric Wilson or Simi Fehoko, the guy that we picked up in the 5th round this draft. Work up to Cedric Wilson, work up to Noah Brown, then work up to the big fucking dogs like Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, and then the route running god on this team himself, Amari Cooper. So, these guys are going to have some competition for sure. So, Nashon Wright, this is one of those picks I'm going to be really excited to see. And that's going to make me fucking hate the summertime. The most boring time in the world in terms of football. I'm going to be really excited for the preseason game. Every time that he steps out on the field, my eyes are going to be directly on Nashon Wright. And just try to see what Dan Quinn saw. And if Stephen Jones, gave the thumbs up for this selection, who is usually a pretty savvy guy to have in the war room during the draft, they really must have high hopes for this guy. I think it's still an asinine pick, a huge reach, but I'm excited to see what they what they have in mind for Nashon Wright. Next is Jabril Cox. Day 3, the Cowboys heard about your criticism with Micah Parsons about him not being able to cover, and they said, fuck you, we're picking up Jabril Cox in the 4th round, a player that was supposed to be off the board by the 2nd or 3rd round. This is probably one of our better picks in the draft. It's going to be really exciting to see him on the field, see him during preseason too. Jabril Cox, great coverage linebacker. It's going to be interesting to see, how we can work all of these linebackers that we have in the game. We're not picking up Lane Vander Esch's 5th-year option, by the way. So, that'll be interesting to see how Micah Parsons and Jabril Cox do. And to an extent, Keanu Neal also. Next, we have Josh Ball. First offensive pick in the draft. Decent player, but a lot of off-field issues. Next, we got a wide receiver from Stanford, Fehoko, as I just mentioned, and then we go back to defense with Quinn Bohanna, defensive tackle out of Kentucky, adding depth to the defensive line. I like it. Israel Mukuamu, defensive back from South Carolina, who can also play safety. Again, huge size. The guy's fucking 6'4". I don't know what it is with our head coach's name, Mike McCarthy. Thank you. I don't know what his thing is with big, tall defensive backs, but he fucking loves these guys because I think the only dude in our secondary that is below 6 foot is Jordan Lewis, and he's getting these fucking dudes that are going to tower over wide receivers. I'm happy with that selection. I'm going to have my eyes glued to him also on the football field. And then we close with Matt Farniok, guard from Nebraska. And that's really it for this draft. I think the only person in the world who's really, truly pissed off at this draft class is Ezekiel Elliott. because we really did not help him out too much at all. Um, as far as beefing up the offensive line. I mean, hopefully they have something in mind, like putting Connor McGovern at, or Joe Looney out on left guard if Connor Williams is still a piece of shit. Tyler Bydach is going to be our center, our starting center this season, so that's going to be really exciting to see. Hopefully, he recovers from his injury last year. Again, a lot of Cowboy fans, have big issues with this draft class, but I don't think this was a complete failure overall. We definitely reached for a lot of dudes. We definitely got a lot of guys with character issues, like Parsons, Joseph, Josh Ball, and probably a couple of others also. That might fuck up the culture in the locker room that we've been trying to set for the last few years. But, I mean, looking at our defense last year, worst possible defense, I think, in franchise history. So seeing us pretty much go all out on defense in this draft, and, even picking up some guys with character issues that we can help grow out of, it's not surprising whatsoever. So overall, we did our job. We did exactly what we came in here wanting to do by getting Dan Quinn as much talent that he can work with as possible, so he can try to, at least get us into a top 15 defense. If he can get this to from worst to, above average, I'll be happy with that. I mean, that's almost a complete 180. But anyways, let me know what you guys think. My favorite pick from this is probably going to be Micah Parsons. I'm really excited to see how he can do. Maybe he'll split some snaps with Keanu Neal. We'll see what happens. But anyways, let me know what you guys think. I'm going to give this draft, I think a B is very fair, because we went all out on defense, which is what we really, really needed. And, but it still sucks that we got some guys with character issues, and we only picked up like 2 offensive linemen, which fucking sucks. Just fingers crossed, I guess, that, Tyron Smith doesn't completely shit his pants on the field, and that, Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott both don't get decapitated on the field. But, I mean, anyways, that's pretty much all I have to say for this draft. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. And I'll see you guys next time. Don't know when that is, because this is a stretch of the offseason where it fucking sucks. And there's nothing going on until preseason or training camp. So let me know what you guys think. I'll see you next time, and peace.